The challenge begins. For a long time, humans believed they were alone in the universe. They looked up at the stars with wonder and hope. But everything changed the day the Velari ships appeared in Earth's orbit. The Velari were an old and proud alien race. Tall and strong with silver skin and glowing eyes, they believed themselves the rulers of the stars. Their world, Velar Prime, was filled with danger and storms and high gravity. Because of this, they believed that no species could ever match their strength. When they looked at Earth from their orbit, they laughed. To them, Earth looked soft and easy. Blue skies, green trees, calm oceans. They thought the humans who lived there must be weak. They called Earth a garden world, a place for children, not warriors. The Velari sent a message to the United Nations. It was short but powerful. They said, "Send your strongest fighter. Let him face our champion in a duel. If your warrior wins, we will leave your planet alone. If he loses, we will take Earth and rule it as we do many others." The world leaders did not know what to do. Most armies were not ready for a fight in space. Many people were afraid. News of the alien challenge spread fast. People filled the streets, worried and angry. Was this the beginning of an invasion? Would Earth fall in one day? Then, one man stepped forward. His name was Sergeant Cold Raven. He was a former Special Forces soldier, now living a quiet life in Alaska. No one had heard his name in years. But those who knew him remembered a man who never gave up. He had fought in the worst places on Earth. Cold mountains, hot deserts, deep jungles. He had carried wounded friends through fire and storms. His body was covered in scars, but his eyes were calm and sharp like steel. Cole did not speak much at the UN meeting. He simply said, "I'll go." The leaders looked at each other. Some laughed. Some looked shocked. But when they saw Cole's steady face and the way he stood like a mountain, they nodded. The world had its champion. The Velari sent a shuttle to pick him up. As Cole walked toward the ship, reporters and cameras tried to get close. But he said nothing. Only his boots hitting the floor could be heard. Boom, like thunder. The aliens watching from orbit noticed something strange. Cole did not walk like other humans. His movements were heavy, solid, grounded. One of the Velari scientists frowned and checked the gravity scanner. It showed a strange reading. His mass seemed to increase slightly as he walked. They thought it was an error and ignored it. A few hours later, the shuttle took off with Cole inside. He sat quietly in his seat, eyes closed. Around him, Velari guards watched closely. But Cole did not move. He just breathed slowly and deeply. The ship passed the moon and headed toward a giant station near Jupiter. This was where the duel would happen. A neutral ground built by many alien races. It had no air, no gravity, and no sound. Just cold metal and open space. As the ship docked, the Velari received another strange reading. The sensors around the ship started to glitch. Gravity scanners blinked red. One engineer looked up, eyes wide. His voice shook. He said, "His mass is increasing again." "How is this possible?" The captain of the Velari ship ordered the scans to stop. He thought the machines were broken. But deep inside, a quiet fear started to grow. The Velari were proud. Too proud, and that pride made them blind. They saw Earth as weak. But they had never stood on Earth's ground. Never felt the weight of its pull. Never walked against its force every single day like humans did. To them, gravity was just a number. But to humans, gravity was life. And Cole Draven was its child. As Cole stepped off the shuttle onto the station, the floor beneath him made a deep sound. The alien guards looked at each other. No one expected this. No one understood what they had just brought aboard. The champion of the Velari, a huge alien warrior named Carrick, stood waiting in the arena. He smiled when he saw Cole. To him, this human looked small, soft, old. But he didn't know that Earth did not make soft things. Earth made survivors. Cole looked up at the arena walls, the alien crowd cheering, laughing. He just cracked his neck and stretched his arms. No fear in his eyes, only focus, only silence. He had not come to win for pride. He had come to remind the stars that Earth may look gentle, but it was born wild. And now the galaxy was about to feel it. Neutral ground. Unfair fight. The alien arena was unlike anything Cole had ever seen. A massive circle of cold silver metal floating above the swirling clouds of Jupiter, built by ancient races who believed in battle without borders. Designed to be neutral to all species, it was a place where wars were ended not with armies, but with honor. Cole stood in the center of the arena, his boots heavy on the strange metal floor, the air inside. The dome was thin, artificial, made for all races, but barely enough for him to breathe. His muscles tensed. But his eyes stayed calm. He looked across the ring and saw his opponent arrive. The Velari champion, Carrick, was a mountain of alien muscle, taller than any man. Cole had seen his armor was sharp and glowing, his skin like stone, his steps silent, but full of pride. He raised his long arms, and the Velari crowd cheered loud across the combs. They roared for blood. They believed this was already over. Cole rolled his shoulders. His bones popped quietly, not from pain but from readiness. He had trained in jungles where the air was thick and deserts where his skin cracked under heat and snow that could bury a truck in seconds. He had never fought in space, but pain was an old friend. The arena had one rule: no weapons, only hand-to-hand, no tricks, no technology, just strength, skill, and spirit. But the Velari had done something else. They had set the gravity in the arena lower than Earth's, thinking it would make Cole slower, weaker, easier to knock down and defeat. But something happened that the Velari did not expect. When the fight began, Cole moved like a stormy, did not float like the aliens. He did not stumble. He walked each step heavy and real, like a man who had fought gravity. All his life he ran toward Carrick, not with speed, but with force, and the moment he got close, the arena shook. Cole ducked the first swing from Carrick. His body low to the ground, he twisted and used the power of his earth-trained muscles to throw his whole shoulder into the alien side. Carrick flew backward, his body crashing into the wall of the ring. The metal-dented sparks flew. Gasps rose from the alien crowd. Silence followed. Some Velari stood in shock. Others checked the arena settings to make sure the gravity was low as they had planned it was. But Cole was not low gravity. He was built under pressure. He was born in it, shaped by it, turned into steel by it. Carrick growled and charged again, swinging with both arms, this time like two hammers. Cole blocked the blow with both arms and slid backward, but stayed on his feet. He breathed out slowly, then countered with a short punch to Carrick's chest. Not flashy, not fancy, just clean, solid, direct. Carrick fell to one knee. The sound echoed like thunder across the walls. Alien scientists began whispering. Watching their monitors, they couldn't understand how this human moved so well under low gravity. He should be disoriented. His reflexes should be delayed, but they weren't. They ran his numbers again and again, each time the same result. Cole Draven was not faster than Carrick. He was not stronger by size, but his body was so tightly adapted to Earth's high gravity that even in this low-gravity arena, he moved with balance, power, and purpose. Velari commander narrowed his eyes. He ordered. The gravity increased just slightly, but not too much, not enough for the audience to notice. He thought it would slow the human. Just enough, but Cole smiled as the weight began to return to his bones. It felt familiar. It felt like home. The fight continued. Blow after blow. Carrick tried to use speed, but Cole used weight and timing. He did not waste energy. He did not chase. He waited and countered, and every time he landed a hit, the sound rang out like a bell. Velari guards at the edge of the arena started to shift nervously. They had never seen a human fight like this. They had never seen a warrior who looked like he belonged to gravity itself. Finally, after 10 long minutes of battle, Carrick stood swaying, his legs weak, his breathing shallow, his fists trembling. He swung one last time, but his arm was too slow. Cole stepped to the side and swept his legs from under him. Carrick crashed down and didn't get back up. The arena went silent. Then a slow, confused voice came through the combs from a Velari elder, his words quiet But clear, what is Earth's gravity again? Someone answered 9. 8 meters per second squared. The elder paused, then said softly, that is not a world for the weak. Cole turned away from Carrick and walked back to the center of the ring. He looked up toward the alien cameras watching him from every angle. He did not raise his arms in victory. He did not shout or celebrate. He simply stood tall, chest rising with each breath, heavy, steady, full of earth. Far above in the Valari ship orbiting Jupiter, the same scanners began to glitch again, showing strange weight spikes around Cole's body. The engineers stared in silence. One of them whispered, "We may have made a terrible mistake." Galaxy had just seen the first sign of what Earth truly was, and it was only the beginning. The gravity within the Valari could not accept what they had just seen. They said the human must be using hidden technology, something inside his body, maybe illegal implants, maybe gravity dampeners, maybe some kind of trick. They demanded a full scan, and their machines went to work. Bright lights scanning every inch of Cole's body, bones, muscles, nerves, even brain waves, but the results came back clean, completely natural, fully human, and no tech inside. The Valari were silent for a moment. Some of them even looked at each other in confusion. This was not what they expected. They believed humans were soft and weak, but this one had fought like he was born under pressure, like his very blood was made of stone. In secret, the Valari Council met. They were angry and confused. They thought Earth was a garden world. They had no idea it could produce a warrior like this, so they came up with a new plan. They said, if the human wins in low gravity, then we will fight him in high gravity, increase the arena, pull double the force. This will crush his muscles, slow his heart, squeeze his lungs until he cannot stand. Message was sent, the challenge clear. Another match, same place, this time under intense gravity, far stronger than Earth's, far heavier than what Cole had trained in. But the human did not complain. He only asked one question: when do we begin? The arena was changed. Machines roared and groaned as the gravity levels were raised. The air became thicker, the floor harder, even the walls creaked under the force. When Cole stepped back into the ring, he felt it at once, the weight pressing down on his back, his legs, his chest. It was like walking through water made of iron, but he did not fall, he did not bend. He smiled. The Valari champion was a different fighter, now younger, stronger, faster than the last one. He walked proudly into the ring, thinking this time it would be easy. The human would drop in the first minute. His bones would break under the pressure. His muscles would tear from the inside. But as the bell sounded and the fight began, something happened that made even the alien watchers rise from their seats. Move slowly, yes, but with purpose. Every step placed with care, every breath controlled, like a man walking through fire who had been burned before and did not fear the heat. He dodged the first few hits, letting the alien use his energy, wasting power, swinging in heavy gravity until his arms began to slow. Then Cole struck one time in the ribs, and the sound was like a tree breaking. The alien stumbled, eyes wide, not from pain but from shock. How could this human still move? How could he stand under this crushing force? The answer was simple: Earth had trained him without him knowing. Every day he walked on a world that shaped his bones into steel and his muscles into rope. Tied tight over years of pulling against the invisible hand of gravity, he had run up hills that pulled at his chest, carried weight through storms that never let go, climbed walls where falling meant death, and survived places where the planet itself tried to break in. The Valari had never experienced this. Their world was harsh, yes, but they had machines for training. They had suits for walking. They had tech to help their bodies stay strong. Humans had none of that. They had only pain and time and will. As the fight continued, Cole did not grow weaker. He grew more focused, each movement smaller, tighter. He was no longer just fighting. He was teaching the Valari something they had forgotten about strength. It was not just about muscle or speed. It was about surviving weight, about standing tall when the world tries to push you down and crush you into nothing. Finally, with one last swing, the alien champion tried to end it, putting all his force into one heavy strike. But Cole moved to the side, just enough, just in time, and used the alien's own momentum to bring him down, slamming him to the ground with the force of the entire arena gravity, helping him instead of hurting him. The champion did not rise. The arena lights flickered. The Valari crowd went silent again. No cheers, no roars, only shock and fear. And somewhere in the control room, a young Valari engineer whispered into his mic, his voice shaking. This man was not built to win. He was built to endure. Cole stood in the center of the ring again, chest heaving, arms at his side. He looked toward the cameras, not for glory, not for pride, just so they would all see him clearly. And remembering the orbiting Valari ship, a scientist named Narek watched the screen. He had not spoken during the matches, but now he did. He said quietly, "I need to meet this human. I need to understand what kind of world makes something like this." And so the next part of the story began, not with another fight, but with a question. What kind of planet creates a man who turns gravity into his weapon? Earth's hidden weapon. The fight was over, but the questions had only begun. Valari scientists gathered in their labs, watching the recordings again and again, slowing every frame, measuring every movement, analyzing the human warrior, not as an enemy now, but as a mystery, something they could not explain, something that should not be possible under their laws of biology and physics. Among them was Narek, a quiet but brilliant mind who had spent his life studying alien species. He had seen thousands of creatures across the stars, strong, fast, smart, dangerous, but none like Cole Draven, and none like the humans of Earth. Narek requested a private meeting with Cole. The Valari Council allowed it with tight guards and strict rules. Cole agreed without hesitation. They met in a chamber deep inside the neutral station. The room was empty, quiet, filled with only low light and silent tension. Eric entered slowly, carrying a small scanning device. But he did not point it at Cole. He simply looked at the man sitting calm, arms crossed, eyes clear, like he had nothing to prove. Because he did. Narek asked him the question that had been burning in his mind since the first fight. "How are you like this?" Cole tilted his head and answered with only one word, "Earth." Narek asked again, not understanding what he meant. So Cole leaned forward and spoke, slowly telling the alien about his world, about the fires of the deserts and the weight of the oceans, about the frozen nights in the north and the heat that could melt steel in the south, about the mountains that touch the clouds and the storms that tear apart cities. He spoke of running through rain so cold it turned skin blue, of climbing rocks with bleeding hands, of breathing thin air near the peaks of the world where each step could stop a heart. He spoke not to impress, but to explain. Earth was not gentle. Earth was never soft. It trained humans every day, not through design, but through struggle. And Eric listened in silence, his fingers shaking slightly as he typed each word into his device, his eyes wide, not with fear, but with awe. "This planet," he whispered, "it was not what we thought it was." Cole nodded and said something that stayed with Narek long after the meeting was over. "You don't fight Earth, you survive it. And if you survive it long enough, it changes you." Next day, the Valari sent a scout ship to Earth, not to attack, not to spy, but to feel it, to test its gravity, its pressure, its environment. The ship entered Earth's orbit, dropped below the clouds, hovered for 5 minutes, then sent one final message back before all communication was lost. Message was simple, 4 words: "It's too heavy here," and then silence. Valari Council sat frozen in their chamber, the footage of the failed scout ship playing in a loop. No smoke, no explosion, no crash, just systems failing one by one, as if the very weight of the planet was too much to handle. They realized something terrifying. Earth was not a training ground. It was a forge, and humans were its weapons. The council began to argue. Some said leave Earth alone forever. Others said study them from afar and never engage again. But a few proud warriors wanted one more test, one more fight to prove that the human victory was luck and not law. But deep down, Narek knew they were wrong. He saw it in Cole's movements, in his breath, in his silence. Cole had not fought to prove anything. He had fought like he had done it before, like Earth had thrown worse at him, and he had gotten back up. Narek returned to his lab and locked the door. He pulled up every human file, every Earth image, every atmosphere report, every temperature map, and the more he read, the more he feared, because humans did not evolve in comfort. They evolved in chaos, volcanoes, earthquakes, storms, beasts. and hunger, and through it all they stood and walked and built and climbed and reached. The stars not in peace, but through pressure and pain. Cold Raven was not the strongest human, not the smartest or fastest, he was just the one who walked forward when others stayed behind, and Earth had made many more like him, some even stronger, some still training under the same blue sky. Narek closed the files and looked out into space. He whispered not to anyone, but to himself, if Earth made one Cole, then we are not ready for the rest. And somewhere far below on the surface of that heavy blue world, more humans were waking up, stretching, breathing, moving through gravity without thinking, training for war without knowing. Just by living, the galaxy had seen only one human in battle, but it would never forget what that one man proved. Earth was not a world to conquer, it was a world to fear. The Velari fear grows. The Velari Council was no longer proud, no longer loud, their voices once full of confidence now shook with quiet fear behind closed doors. They reviewed everything again, the fight, the scans, the message from the lost scout ship, the weight of Earth pressing down even through data screens. It felt real, too real to ignore. They had made a mistake. They knew it now, but their pride held them back from admitting it out loud to the galaxy. They had promised victory, promised the defeat of the human champion, promised Earth would bow. Now the galaxy was watching, and silence would look like weakness. So they made a decision, one final match, one last chance to save their name and prove Velari's strength. They would raise the arena gravity higher than ever before, 3 times Earth's pull, a force that even their own warriors could barely handle. But they believed that the human would finally fall under it. They believed that no body, no matter how strong, could stand under such weight. A message was sent again, this time with fewer words. One last fight, full gravity. No tech, no tricks, no escape if the human wins. We leave Earth forever. Cole read the message sitting alone in a quiet corner of the station, his hands calm, his eyes steady. He did not ask questions, he only gave one answer: tell them I'll be there. Velari began preparing the arena, every wall reinforced, every support beam checked twice. The machines groaned as the weight levels increased. Alarms sounded not for danger, but for warning. The air grew thick, the floor bent slightly under its own pressure. Even before the match began, the station engineers whispered to each other, wondering if the structure could hold what was about to happen. Cole entered the arena first, and each step was heavier than the last. His boots pressed into the floor, his back pulled down, his breath came slower, but he kept walking like gravity was an old friend who had only grown a little stronger. The Velari champion entered next, a massive figure armored in thick scales, trained in high gravity zones, built for endurance. The best fighter the Velari had ever created, bred for this moment, to carry their pride and erase their fear. The two stood face to face, neither blinking, neither moving. The arena lights dimmed and the signal flashed. The match had begun. The Velari champion rushed forward, fast for his size, his fists wide, his arms swinging like hammers. But Cole did not step back. He lowered his stance, let the weight settle into his legs, and raised his arms to block the first strike. The sound was deep, like steel hitting steel. Cole grunted but did not fall. Instead, he stepped forward. A slow push, like the earth itself moving. His shoulders slammed into the alien's chest and forced him backward, not far, just a few inches. But in this gravity, every inch was a war. Crowd watched in complete silence. No cheers, no calls, just the sound of pressure, the weight of the air itself pressing down on all of them. The Velari champion attacked again and again, sweat flying, eyes burning, but each strike was slower than the last, and each time Cole blocked, absorbed, countered. The alien began to stumble, his legs shaking, his arms hanging heavy. Cole waited until the moment was right, and then he moved a small step, a twist of the hips, a short punch, not fast, not wide, but placed with perfect timing into the alien's side. The champion fell, knees crashing to the floor, and the arena groaned again. From the force, Cole stood over him, breathing slow, chest rising heavy, but controlled. The fight was not about speed, it was not about strength, it was about who could carry the world longer. And Cole had been carrying his world since the day he was born. The Velari champion tried to stand, but his body would not listen. The gravity had turned his limbs into stone, his breath into fire. He looked up at the human, not with hate, but with confusion, and then he stopped moving. Arena flashed red. The match was over, and Cole was still standing in the control room. The Valari Council watched in silence. No orders, no shouts, only the truth staring them in the face. Earth had made something they could not defeat because Earth did not build warriors for show, it built them for survival, and survival was the one thing the galaxy had forgotten. The fleet began preparations to leave. No celebration, no banners, just quiet retreat. The commanders gave the order with tight jaws and lowered eyes. Earth would be left untouched, not out of respect, but out of fear. One Valari turned to another and asked, "What do we tell the other species?" The answer came like a whisper. "Do not touch the blue world. Do not test the ones who walk in gravity." And above the arena, Cole looked toward the stars, not angry, not proud, only aware that the galaxy had changed, and Earth was no longer the quiet world on the edge of space. It was now something else, something the stars would remember. Message to the galaxy: news of the duel between Cole Draven and the Valari champion spread like wildfire across the galaxy. Every planet, every star system, every space station spoke of the human who fought gravity and won. Many laughed at first, thinking this was just a story, a myth, a legend born from fear. But then the videos were shared, slow motion, replay after replay, showing every move, every heavy step, every crushing blow, and no one could deny the truth anymore. Humans were no longer a quiet blue planet in the backwater of the stars. They were something else now, a force to be reckoned with, a species shaped by a world that molded them like iron and fire. The Valari defeat became a warning, a message to all who might think of invading or underestimating Earth. Alien races who had once ignored Earth began to watch carefully. They sent scouts and spies, but none dared attack. Some sent gifts and messages, hoping for alliance and peace, because they knew now that Earth was a place where only the strong survived, and humans had strength beyond what they had imagined. Some spoken whispers call in humans gravity born, children of a heavy world whose very bodies were weapons forged by relentless pressure, and challenge. Others said Earth was a death world, a place that could break any invader. Before they took a single step in distant Star Council's debates, raged. Some leaders urged caution, some wanted war, but most agreed Earth was not worth the risk, not when it could crush armies with the invisible hand of gravity. Alone on Earth, Cole returned quietly to his home. No parades, no celebrations, just the weight of the world on his shoulders, but he carried it well, because now every human who looked up at the stars felt a new pride, knowing they were part of something bigger, something stronger. Young warriors began training harder than ever, pushing their bodies against gravity, pushing their limits, because they knew one day the galaxy might call them to fight, and they would be ready, not because of weapons, but because Earth had made them warriors born to endure. Far away on a peaceful world, a group of alien leaders watched the recordings of Cole's fight. One elder turned to the others and said, "This human is a message, not just a fighter, but a sign that the universe is changing. The days of easy conquest are over. The strong will rise and the weak will fall." And across the stars a new chapter began, where Earth was no longer just a small blue planet, but a legend whispered in fear, respect, and awe, where humans stood tall and proud because they had survived the impossible and made it look easy. Cole's legacy: the battles were over, but the story was just beginning. Cole Draven returned to Earth, a quiet man with a heavy past and heavier future. The galaxy had seen his strength, and now the world would see what that strength truly meant. No parades, no medals, no speeches, only the sound of footsteps on hard ground. The same ground that had shaped him every day since childhood. The mountains, the deserts, the cold winds, the crushing gravity had all made him who he was. Young men and women watched him from afar, not as a legend, but as a real man, someone who had carried Earth's weight and stood tall against the stars. They trained harder because they wanted to be like Cole, not because they wanted fame, but because they wanted to survive and protect their home Earth. itself seemed to change. People felt it in the air, in the pull of the ground, in the way their muscles ached after a hard day in the fields or factories or battle training. Every scar, every bruise was a story, a badge of honor that told the galaxy. Earth was no place for the weak. Aliens began visiting Earth, but with caution and respect. They came to learn from humans, to understand how a world so full of life could produce warriors so strong they could stand against the Volari and win. They brought gifts, knowledge, and promises of peace, because they knew this was not a war to fight, but a power to respect. Cole never sought glory. He only said the truth, simple and clear. We are human. We get up. When we fall, we keep moving. When the world tries to stop us, that is our strength, and that is what makes us different. The stories of that fight spread across planets and moons. They inspired other worlds to look at Earth with new eyes, and other humans to push harder, to train longer, to live stronger. And the galaxy learned a lesson that could not be forgotten, that sometimes the greatest power is not in weapons or technology, but in the heart and spirit, shaped by a world that refuses to give up. Cole's legacy was not just about a fight. It was about survival, hope, courage, and the quiet strength of a people who carry the weight of their world every day. And rise Earth was no longer just a blue planet. It was a symbol of force and a warning to all who looked up at the stars. Remember, the children of Earth are not weak. They are the force the universe did not expect, and they will always rise.